thank you. In addition to my activities on energy and climate change, we also write textbooks on European integration, and I think we probably did the shortest textbook on it, on 70 pages. Now, I'm like to take while he was looking very much ahead, I would like to look a little bit back what we were doing. I can do this because our center is now almost 30 years old, which makes it the oldest Brussels think tanks. We're still very young compared to many other institutions, certainly in this country, but there is some experience on what think tanks can do and cannot. I would think there is about 3 different functions. One would be to generate analysis for the general expert public, not for the tabloids, I would imagine, but also for the specialists and the policymakers and policy shapers. Then there is the core expertise, or the core task is to generate ideas, proposals. And then the third, the most difficult one, is actually to make these proposals happen. And I hear there's a lot of politicians, and I know we are often in the same boat. Huh? So on the analysis, what to generate analysis, I think also in the EU level we did quite well. The problems that we are now in have been well established. I just can repeat, and you probably know, my director has 2 years ahead of the housing bubble burst, written in FT, an article exactly outlining the problem, the data, and it was conveniently ignored, as it happens in the political process, which I think is, this is the way it is. Also, we know since many, many years that one of the fundamental building blocks of the coping with the current sovereign debt crisis is a recapitalization of the European banks. I mean, nobody disagrees this, but it seems it is not happening. So I think the analysis part is fine. There's so much you can do. Now, generate ideas. I think what we have achieved in Europe to an extent is we have a marketplace, or if you wish, competition for ideas. There's different players, smaller, bigger ones, national ones, and so on. So on the European level, I think there is a lot of ideas which compete with each other, which I think should be the way it is. And increasingly, this competition is across Europe. Of course, only if there's European topics. This is a European topics. Other issues are less of a European, so we won't have a European debate. We don't need one. Huh? Now, this is very much also, you see the networks of think tanks gradually emerging. I wouldn't say they're yet there, but there is a fair amount of discussions on a European level between the different national or European or whatever think tanks. Now, generally, my experience has been the ideas we generate, I mean, they maybe sound a little bit arrogant here, but why not? There are more absorbed, the less influential the organizations are. The closer, put it positively, the closer you get to the hardcore establishment of the decision-making process, of course, the more these ideas, which you still think are good, are ignored. No, I mean, that's again, I think this may be something similar in the member states as well. Now, but the real weak point for the think tanks, and that is from a European level, maybe also from the national one, is how actually to make these ideas happen. Now, at the European level, we have an additional complication. We have very decentralized governance, 27 member states, soon 28. The country I'm living consists of 3 or 4 different regions, very decentralized. We have the Commission, the Parliament. We have a limited EU political parties. We have 21 languages. And of course, very different governance philosophies, traditions, and so on and so on. Just one example, contrary to what you might want to think, in Germany, the advice of economics professor is basically taken not at all into account. That's why there's so much noise. So there's different traditions. In some countries, there is more analytical community involved in policy making than in others, and this is just, the part of European diversity. That's, I think, not a bad thing. So now, what can we do about this? We are actually in the business of providing solutions, so I don't want to let you just leave you without having some ideas. I think the important part to all this wealth of generation of ideas generated, and this is across Europe, this is in all the different member states, is I think is this kind of initiative we are having here to create networks of analysis in the research side, the hard research. You know, we have a very integrated European research areas where all the research institutes across Europe work with each other fairly smoothly. Now, on this more policy research area, generation of ideas, I think that integration hasn't yet happened. It's gradually happening, but I don't think this is a task to be done by what we usually refer to Brussels. This is really something where member states have also to play a role via such networks, creating some centers of excellence, and then involve other organizations which they seem fit. So it's not a governance task of the EU, it's something much more from a private part. I think increasingly, the more Europeanized the topics or the more global the topics get, there is more and more interest into this. And I work in climate change, and a lot of member states start realizing if you want to do something on climate change and do it at the national level, ideas, research, doesn't make any sense. You know, you have to bring it in the European fold, and this you see happening there, and I would expect that in many, many areas, I see, you know, Vasconcelos, again, the same regulation of energy market. If you have an idea and make it nationally, what's the point of it? So obviously, you have networks where these things are going. So, in short, before you give me a strong look, the analysis, I think, is available, and we have a good European space for this. The ideas, too, maybe we are not good enough with all of them, but the weakness is really to get the ideas to work across Europe, and for this we need, you know, this kind of initiatives where there are interest generated to bring the different people and the different ideas in a structured way together. So, thanks.